Summer 1942. The Soviet Union is bleeding. The German army pushes deep into the motherland. The Volga River draws near. Cities burn. Entire Soviet divisions vanish overnight. By June, Hitler's forces control most of Ukraine. The Red Army retreats, step by step, line by line. Every mile lost is another humiliation for Stalin. Inside the Kremlin, rage builds. To Stalin, retreat is treason. Fear is weakness. Mercy is death. He watches reports come in, lists of towns abandoned, generals executed, armies crushed. The words echo in his mind. We are losing the war. But in Stalin's world, losing is impossible. Only betrayal exists. He begins to search for someone to blame. Not the Germans, not his own failed strategy, but the soldiers themselves. He believes discipline has collapsed, that the Red Army has grown soft. He decides to harden it, with blood if necessary. By early July 1942, the Germans march toward Stalingrad. The Volga trembles under the sound of artillery. Panic spreads. Desertions increase. Some Soviet units retreat without orders. That's when Stalin snaps. He writes in a furious tone to his commanders, "Enough retreating. Not one step back." The words that will define his cruelty and the fate of millions are born. The clock ticks toward July 28, 1942. A single order will change everything. An order that will turn the Red Army's guns, not only toward the enemy, but toward its own men. Moscow, July 1942. Stalin sits in his Kremlin office, sleepless, chain-smoking, staring at a map of the Soviet front. The German advance is faster than he imagined. Kharkov is gone. Rostov is gone. The road to Stalingrad lies open. Every red flag on the map marks a lost battle. Every pin moved westward is another blow to his pride. He calls a meeting. Generals gather, silent, tense. No one dares to speak first. Stalin breaks the silence. His voice is cold, controlled. Cowards and deserters are spreading panic, he says. We will end this, now. That night, he dictates what will become order number 227. His words are sharp as bullets. Each commander, each soldier, must be made to understand that retreating one step means death, not one step back. The document outlines 3 brutal directives. No unauthorized retreats, ever. Commanders who abandon positions will be tried by military tribunal. NKVD blocking detachments will stand behind the troops to shoot deserters. The order also introduces something new, something cruel. The penal battalions, Strafbats, formed from disgraced soldiers, officers, and political prisoners. Their mission: fight in the most dangerous zones. Die or redeem yourself in blood. When Stalin signs the paper on July 28, 1942, the ink is still wet when messengers rush it to every front. Within days, copies of Order 227 reach division commanders across the Soviet Union. Many are horrified, some salute. All understand. This is not a request. It's law. Commanders are ordered to read the decree aloud to their troops. In forests, trenches, and burned-out villages, soldiers stand in silence as the words echo. Not one step back. They glance at one another, tired, hungry, terrified. They know what it means. If the Germans don't kill them, their own men might. As the sun sets on July 28th, Stalin leans back in his chair. He has given his command. No turning back now, for him or for the millions under his rule. The war has entered a new, darker phase. The decree spreads like wildfire, from Moscow to the Volga, from the forests near Smolensk to the scorched plains of Stalingrad. Everywhere, commanders gather their men and read Stalin's words aloud. The air is heavy. The soldiers stand silent. Dust swirls around them. Panic mongers and cowards must be exterminated on the spot, the officers read. Not one step back. No one dares to move. No one dares to breathe. For the veterans, it feels like a death sentence. For the new recruits, it's a promise of hell. In some units, men whisper to each other after dark. "He wants us to die here," one says. "We have no choice," another answers. But a few, the fanatical ones, the loyal commissars, believe the order is right. They speak of iron discipline, of the motherland's survival. They call it the only way to stop the bleeding. Yet at the front, reality bites harder. Officers must now choose between retreating to survive or standing still to die. Every decision is a gamble with death on both sides. On August 3rd, 1942, in the Don Front, a Soviet regiment tries to pull back under heavy German artillery. The NKVD intercepts them. 30 soldiers are executed, on the spot, as an example to the rest. Word spreads. Retreat becomes unthinkable. Even wounded men crawl back toward their lines rather than risk being shot as cowards. In some places, it works. The front holds, for now. But the cost is unbearable. Morale doesn't rise, it breaks. Trust disappears. The soldiers begin to fear the men behind them more than the enemy ahead. Stalin watches the reports with satisfaction. Executions rise, desertions drop. To him, it means the order is working. But for those living it, for the millions standing between German tanks and Soviet bullets, the war has become something else entirely. A nightmare with no way out. Behind every Soviet soldier, there was another threat, his own countrymen. By August 1942, Stalin's new creation spreads across the front. NKVD blocking detachments, special units whose mission isn't to fight the Germans, but to stop Soviet soldiers from running. They wait in the shadows, behind trenches, behind trees, behind their own lines. Machine guns ready, orders clear. If they retreat without command, shoot them. The NKVD answers only to Stalin. They wear the same uniforms as the Red Army, but their power is absolute. Their bullets are the law. When a Soviet unit falters under German fire, the blocking detachment steps forward. Sometimes they shout warnings. Sometimes they open fire immediately. In the chaos of retreat, no one knows who killed whom. But afterward, bodies are found, shot in the back, not the front. Official reports try to hide it. They say, "Cowards eliminated." They never mention that those cowards were boys, 18, 19 years old, terrified, exhausted, and fighting with empty rifles. One NKVD officer later recalled, "We did not shoot them because we wanted to. We shot them because we were ordered to. If we refused, we'd be shot ourselves." The system fed on fear. Officers shot soldiers. Commissars shot officers. And above them all, Stalin watched, convinced that terror was the glue holding the Red Army together. In September 1942, near the Volga, one division loses over half its men in a single day. When the survivors fall back to regroup, NKVD troops block their path. Dozens are executed, the rest sent to penal battalions. But something strange happens in the weeks that follow. Under this reign of fear, some units stop retreating, not from courage, but from despair. If death waits behind and ahead, then forward becomes the only direction left. And slowly, brutally, the Soviet lines begin to stiffen. At a terrible cost. By autumn, Stalin's order has reshaped the Red Army. It is no longer an army of soldiers. It is an army of survivors, bound by fear, forced by terror, driven by one phrase: not one step back. Stalin's order doesn't just threaten soldiers with execution. It also gives them a so-called second chance, a chance to die for redemption. Across the Soviet fronts, penal battalions, or Strafbats, are formed. They are made of deserters, prisoners, political offenders, and even officers who failed. Their orders are simple: attack first, die first, survive if you can. At the front, they are sent into hell. No cover, no artillery support, no reinforcements. Their mission: hold a line until the main force can advance or vanish under German fire. In one engagement near Stalingrad, 1,000 men are sent forward. By nightfall, fewer than 100 remain. The survivors are given a new task, again at the forefront, again facing almost certain death. Some write letters home, knowing they may never reach their families. Some swear silently to survive. Some pray for the moment a bullet takes them, freeing them from fear and hunger and endless orders. Commanders observe with a mix of horror and approval. The penal battalions are effective. They slow the German advance, buying time for strategic positions. But every success is paid in human lives. Waves of men mown down like wheat in a field. By late 1942, the Strafbats have become a symbol, a living testament to Stalin's cruelty. He believes in their existence. He believes that blood will discipline the army, and in many ways, it works. But soldiers whisper in the trenches, "The order is not for the Germans. It is for us, for the living." Every step forward carries the weight of death behind them and in front. By November, as the Battle of Stalingrad rages, penal battalions fight alongside regular troops. They are the spearhead, the shield, the expendable force. And the Red Army, forged in fear and fire, begins to hold. Yet the cost of survival is etched into every face. Every man knows, in Stalin's world, obedience is survival, and survival is suffering. Winter. 1942. Stalingrad. The city is a graveyard of rubble and smoke. German tanks roar through the streets. Soviet soldiers fight house by house, street by street. The city is frozen, but the battle rages. Order number 227 has turned the Red Army into something terrifying. Soldiers no longer retreat. They cannot. Every man knows, step back, and death will come from his own side. Penal battalions lead assaults, wave after wave. Blocking detachments watch, ready to shoot anyone who falters. The fear is suffocating, but it works. Slowly, inch by inch, the Soviets push the Germans back. By November, encirclement plans begin. Stalin's generals, once nearly purged, now maneuver with precision. The Red Army begins to encircle the German Sixth Army. The soldiers remember the words shouted to them in the summer, "Not one step back." They obeyed out of fear, yes. But in doing so, they hold Stalingrad. And as winter deepens, the Germans, unprepared for the cold and facing relentless Soviet attacks, start to falter. By February 1943, the Sixth Army surrenders. A turning point, the first major defeat for Hitler's forces on the Eastern Front. Stalin watches the news from Moscow. In his mind, the order has worked. But at what cost? Hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers lie dead. Many more are wounded, frozen, or traumatized. The streets of Stalingrad are littered with the remnants of men who could not obey or survive. Yet the Red Army survives. Order number 227, with all its cruelty, has forced discipline, halted retreats, and ultimately contributed to victory. But the victory is hollow. Each inch gained carries the memory of terror, the echo of bullets from behind, and the shadow of Stalin's wrath. The war is far from over. But Stalingrad proves one thing. Fear can forge an army, but it leaves a wound that never heals. The Red Army survives. The Germans are stopped. Stalingrad stands. But victory is bitter. Millions of Soviet soldiers carry invisible wounds. Fear has replaced trust. The memory of bullets from behind, from NKVD blocking detachments, haunts them. The men who survived penal battalions count friends lost in the first waves of assault. Families receive letters that never mention the truth. "Your son is a hero," they read. But the heroism came at a terrible cost. Life spent in terror, or death in agony. Commanders are scarred, too. Some obeyed blindly. Some hesitated, only to witness executions. All are haunted by the knowledge that one wrong order could mean the death of their men and their own. Across the front, soldiers whisper, "Not for our country, not for the motherland, for fear. Even victories are hollow." Stalin praises the generals publicly, but privately he criticizes and mistrusts them. The threat of purge never disappears. The Soviet people hear little of what happened. Propaganda celebrates heroism, courage, and sacrifice. It hides the brutal reality. Order number 227 was not just a military tactic. It was a weapon of terror. In the winter of 1943, historians later note, the Red Army has learned discipline. But the lessons were learned in blood. Fear has forged unity, but at the cost of humanity. And somewhere in Moscow, Stalin smiles. For him, obedience is more important than life. For the soldiers, life is measured in obedience, and the price has been unimaginable. By spring 1943, the front has stabilized. The Red Army has recovered some ground. Stalingrad is a symbol of Soviet resilience, but the scars of order number 227 remain. Soldiers who survive the battles carry memories of fear, of friends shot by their own side, of penal battalions that marched into slaughter, of commanders who obeyed orders without hesitation or were executed for failing. Discipline has been enforced. The Red Army fights with coordination and tenacity, yet behind every victory is a silent question. How many lives were spent just to keep men from fleeing? Historians later call order number 227 a double-edged sword. It may have helped stop the Germans, it may have hardened the army, but it also shows the extreme lengths Stalin would go to maintain control. For the men on the front, obedience was survival, and survival was pain. For the Soviet people, the story of heroism is intertwined with horror. And for Stalin, fear remained the ultimate weapon. Order number 227 becomes a symbol of dictatorship, paranoia, and cruelty, a symbol of the human cost of blind obedience, a symbol of a war where the enemy was not only outside the trenches, but sometimes standing behind them. The echoes of "not one step back" linger long after the bullets have stopped. In history books, in the memories of survivors, and in the shadow of a leader who ruled through terror. The war would continue. The Red Army would eventually march to Berlin, but the price of survival, enforced by fear, would never be forgotten.